Larry tried to kill me.
Yeah. I was so thoroughly disgusted.
I mean, think about it. Why does it make you special to do what you do?
Packers jumping around. They rush four. Plenty of time for John. Now squeezes, steps up in the pocket. Elliott can run inside the 10. Head first. He 5-yard line. My goodness.
Rushing forward, ball comes out of the hands of Newton. It's on the ground, and it's still on the ground. Picked up by T.J. Ward at the 4-yard line.
There's also Brian Clady and Bob Miller. Third along 3. Going deep. Oh, and he's got Thomas. Goodbye. Touchdown.
Here we go. First snap of the overtime. The Broncos have been in 3 overtime games this year. They won them all. Gavin at the 40. It's Thomas at the 50. Stiff arm Gavin Green to the 30. To the 20. Thomas to the 10. Difference going on to New England. They win it on the first play of overtime.
Hello, Bronco fans and football fans everywhere. Welcome to Broncos Breakdown on the MHRT Network. This is a show that is everything Broncos and brought to you with emotion, passion, honesty, and of course, my comments. I am your host, Bronco Bill. All right, guys, before I get into it, I just want to give a shout out to Avatar. Always in the house. I've always appreciated it. What's up, Broncos country? Well, I'll tell you what's up here in just a few minutes. How's that? And then Bubba says, hi, Bill. Bubba Gonzalez. Nice to have you here as well, man. I'll always appreciate both you guys and anybody and everybody that jumps into the chat. It's always fun to get your comments and then to reply to them and have a good banter. All right. Let's start out. And I normally don't start out with this particular topic, but I want to get this one out of the way so I can get into some Broncos topics, obviously. So here it is, guys. I'm starting out with this first time ever. All right. I never like to bring topics of this nature, but it seems to be happening more and more. And a lot of people point to CTE. I'm not sure if that's the case. I don't know if it's the fact that they're so used to, the glamour and the glitz and, the fame and, the money that they get. I'm not sure. I really, really don't know. But this one bothers me because, not that the other ones don't, but let me get into it. Former National Football League Chiefs player has been arrested. Former player Gerald Powell, 35, was booked into Madison County Detention Center on kidnapping charges last Thursday. Now, not yesterday, but a week ago from yesterday. Kidnapping? I don't get these guys. Let me continue. Powell and his accomplice, Gavin Bates, now it doesn't say that he played in the NFL, so I'm not saying that he did. But Gavin Bates, also 35, took the kidnapped victim to a Chase bank, had him withdraw money that he was forced to do so. It didn't say if it was at gunpoint or just the simple fact that, that there was 2 guys against 1. Obviously you're not going to try and fight 2 guys. But think about this, guys. You're 35 years old. You're going to throw your life away? For what? Measly couple dollars? We don't know how much the guy had. His name wasn't mentioned, and it shouldn't be mentioned. But I don't know what gets into these guys. I really don't. I continue. Bates was also charged. That's his accomplice. Bates was also charged with a controlled substance violation. Uh-oh. Not good at all. Both are held without bond pending a hearing, and that's supposed to be scheduled, I believe, next week. Powell played for the Chiefs in 2008, the Houston Texans, which, the Houston Texans, as well as the Washington Redskins back then in 2015. Powell officially retired from the NFL in 2017. I don't get it, guys. I just don't understand these guys. And maybe that's one of the reasons why Rosberg is creating his business with a business partner to help these guys that may need financial assistance or may need mental assistance from, head trauma, whether it be concussions or whatever. I do know that Rosberg and his business partner are creating I don't want to say a firm, but a business where if players, after they retire or they get cut or whatever the situation may be, and they're not in the NFL anymore, and they're not getting assistance from the NFL, they are going to provide a very necessary assistance. That's what these guys need. We're seeing way, way, way too many of these JAOWT, Jackass of the Week, from me. Way too many, and way too many in the NFL. It's sad. I wish the best for Powell, and just I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. It's just way, way too many. All right, let's get into football talk on the positive side. Well, this one's positive for me, that's for sure. Here it is. Third largest playoff comeback. That's right. The Jacksonville Jaguars became the third largest comeback in the NFL playoffs. In 1993, the Buffalo Bills came back against the Houston Oilers, now known as the Tennessee Titans. When they moved, the Houston Oilers, Bills were down 32-0. In 2014, the Indianapolis Colts came back down 28-0 against the Chiefs. Last Saturday, the Jaguars, down 27-0, came back against the Chargers to win 31-30 and advance to the divisional round against the Chiefs this Sunday. Here's a footnote. Well, before I get into footnote, when Mike and I were doing the neighborhood show on Saturday, this game was on Saturday, the Jaguar Charger game was on Saturday. We were doing the Avalanche neighborhood, and people kept chiming in saying, it's 20, it's 13-0 Chargers. It's 20-0 Chargers. It's 27-0 Chargers. Why were they doing that? Because they know I can't stand the Chargers, and I want the Jaguars to win. And I remember commenting during a break or something. I text Mike and I said, I don't think the Jaguars are done. I mean, it's a game of two halves. You could have a bad half and sometimes come back. And that's what happened. And all of a sudden it was 27-7 right before the half. And then it continued. And when the Jaguars got the ball inside their own 10-yard, I believe maybe it been inside the 5. And they drove the distance to get the winning field goal. Oh my goodness, was that a very, very close field goal? It could have hit the upright, but it didn't. And this guy was elated. Why? I'm not a Jaguars fan, but everybody knows I can't stand the Chargers. So that made my weekend. I was happy about that. A footnote to this. And this, I'll tell you what, man. This, in my opinion, was absolutely stupid. Then again, there aren't too many smart people out there that do something like this. Someone bet $1.4 million, not $1, not 14, $1.4 million on the Chargers to win the game when they led 27-0. Doesn't anybody realize the Chargers blow it all the time? all the time. Go back and look at some of their videos. They are pathetic. And of course, I love it. Needless to say, that was a very foolish bet. $1.4 million on a team that constantly blows leads, constantly loses. Yeah, well, guess what? He lost $1.4 million. All right. Oh, sorry, guys. Pulled two notes here. All right. Here we go. Harbaugh stays at Michigan. Before I read this, let me just say I'm ecstatic that he's not coming to Denver. And I'll tell you why. And I've mentioned it before. I don't like Harbaugh's attitude. I don't like his demeanor. I don't like his in-your-face coaching. And I know I've heard some from some people who have contacted me and said, come on, Bronco Bill. Harbaugh's maybe what the Broncos need. After all, Hackett was a rah-rah kind of guy and a huggy, kissy kind of guy. That didn't work. I don't think that you can go to the opposite extreme. When you go to, the opposite extreme and you go from a huggy guy to an in-your-face guy, I don't think that works. That's way too extreme. And Harbaugh is that kind of guy. Does it work in college? Obviously it does. Look what he's done at Michigan. And he's returning to Michigan. And I'll get into that in just a bit. But to work with Russell Wilson, with the in-your-face, wasn't Pete Carroll that kind of guy towards the end of Wilson's time in Seattle? Of course he was. Absolutely he was. He said, no, we're going to run the ball. I want to run the ball more. Wilson said, I want to pass it more. Well, guess who won? Obviously, Pete Carroll, he's still there. And thank goodness we got Russell Wilson. I know, guys, I'll get to some stories down the road. My thing is this. You can't have a 10-year veteran, or 11 now, with Russell Wilson doing what Russell Wilson has always done, and they expect him to change or have a head coach that says you're going to change or else. It didn't work with Hackett. I dang sure know it would not have worked with Harbaugh. And thank goodness the Broncos and Harbaugh did not come to agreement, because that would have, in my opinion, totally ruined the Broncos going forward. Here it is. Jim Harbaugh has decided to stay at Michigan instead of being the Broncos' next head coach. No details were released as to his decision to stay in Michigan. I'm assuming one of two things happened. Either A, the Broncos were not thoroughly interested in Harbaugh, and they maybe have offered him something. Harbaugh said, I can go to Michigan and get more than that. Good. Go to Michigan. Stay in Michigan. I don't want you. Not whatsoever. So I'm glad he's not coming to Denver. Okay. Where does that leave the Broncos in their search for a head coach? Oh, well, I'll tell you in just 1 second. Bo Gonzalez says, how's it going, Bill? It's going great, man. It's going great. Absolutely great. Don't know who our head coach is going to be yet, but I've got a couple of tidbits to throw your way during this show. So hang in and keep listening, or keep watching as well. Ejiro Evero. Now, we all know that Evero is on a very, very high, not commodity, but high, he's highly scouted or highly wanted as 5 teams that are looking for a head coach. One of them is the Denver Broncos. Broncos have interviewed Evero. Obviously, there hasn't been a decision as of yet. I'm assuming that they're going to go through all other interviews, and then they're going to scale it down from, okay, let's say we interviewed 50, or let's say they interviewed 15. Then they drop it to 10 or maybe 7 or whatever. So Evero is a high commodity or a high sought out person to be 5 teams head coach. Those 5 teams are the Denver Broncos, Houston Texans, Indianapolis Colts, Carolina Panthers, and the Arizona Cardinals. Evero has been sought after as head coach for all 5 teams needing a new leader. The latest to request an interview is the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona has also interviewed former head coach Frank Reich. Now, I'd like them to take Frank Reich because I want Evero to stay in Denver as our defensive coordinator. The Broncos' defense was solid this year. They were absolutely solid. And key players like Justin Simmons and Patrick Surtain and Singleton, they were awesome in their game. And that's all attributed to Evero. I want him to stay here. I understand he wants to be a head coach, and that's all well and good. But just not now. All right. Evero has never been a head coach at any level, but his defensive resume has made him a highly sought-out candidate with those 5 teams. Does Denver hire Evero? I don't think so. I would not assume they would. Do I like Evero to be a head coach? Twofold. Guys, I love Evero. I think he's a great defensive coordinator. But again, he would be a first-year head coach. We've already done this 3 times. We've done it with Vance Joseph. We did it with Vic Fangio. We did it with Nathaniel Hackett. Do we want to go down that road again? I certainly don't. Absolutely not. Not that I don't think Evero would or could be a good head coach. I just don't want to take that roll of the dice. Not at this time. Not when we've gone through 2 already. And I want somebody who is well seasoned in head coaching, who knows how to run a team as being head coach. Not a dictator, not your way, you're going to do it my way, like a Pete Carroll or Jim Harbaugh. No, but I also don't want a softie like Hackett that doesn't know how to do it, has no clue, and doesn't understand how to be a head coach. I don't want that. What I want is a head coach that will let Wilson be Wilson, like we saw the last 2 games. The game against Kansas City. We were right there, guys, 27-24. We had that game. If the referees don't freaking hand it to Kansas City, which they did. And then we beat the Chargers on beautiful plays by Russell Wilson. A 45 or 50-yard throw running to his left in a perfect pocket throw. Perfect throw right over the shoulder. That's what Wilson does best. We need a head coach that will allow Wilson to be Russell Wilson. All right, I go to the next topic. And here it is. Russell Wilson and Jerry Jeudy linked up multiple times down the stretch of the season, especially the last 2 games, which I mentioned, against the Chiefs and the Chargers. Judy's contract needs to be extended, as both Wilson and Jeudy should climb with a new head coach and a new season. What I mean by climb is Jerry Jeudy was great. I don't mean just good, but great in his last 2 games when Wilson was Wilson. And that's what we need. We don't need to get rid of Jerry Jeudy. I know people have said earlier when he wasn't producing, well, we probably should trade Jerry Jeudy. Maybe we can get a first rounder for it, whatever. No, don't trade him. It wasn't Judy's fault. It wasn't Wilson's fault. It was Nathaniel Hackett's fault. That's why Hackett's gone, guys. That's why, exactly why. And we saw what Wilson and Jeudy could do when they're teamed up with a coach in Jerry Rosburg who let Wilson be Wilson, let his coordinators do their job. That's what a head coach is supposed to do. A head coach is not supposed to be a dictator, not whatsoever. And that's why Jerry Jeudy needs to have his contract extended. Absolutely. We cannot lose Jerry Jeudy. Period. I continue. Jeudy logged 67 catches for 972 yards and 6 touchdowns. That's phenomenal, guys. And that was in most of that, I would say, was probably the last couple of games, which tells me, what would Judy have gotten if Russell Wilson was able to be Russell Wilson for all 17 games? Well, he missed a couple of games, but you get what I'm saying. For all the games he played, I dare say Jerry Jeudy would have been well over 1,000 yards. Well over 1,000 yards. 972 came 28 yards short. 28 yards short of 1,000 yards with a head coach that wouldn't let Wilson be Wilson. In Hackett, that is. All right. And let me go back to that. Jeudy logged 67 catches, 972 total yards, and 6 touchdowns. All of those are career highs. Okay. Career highs, my friends. Career highs for Jerry Jeudy. That didn't come under Drew Lock. That came under Russell Wilson, but it came under Russell Wilson when Wilson was allowed to be Russell Wilson. That didn't happen the first 15 games of the season. No doubt. Okay. Let's see. Avatar says, looked like Harbaugh has his own issues with the NCAA. Oh, really? Avatar, please elaborate. What do you mean by he has his own issues with the NCAA? You talking about just strictly Michigan? You talking about the NCAA in general? Or what are you referring to? I'd like to get your take on that. Avatar says, now think if we had Mr. Tim Patrick in the lineup with Jeudy and Sutton. Oh, great point. Great point. But you got to also remember, would that have been Tim Patrick, Jerry Jeudy, and Cortland Sutton under Hackett? Would never happen. It'd still be the same result, in my opinion. The last 2 games, oh yeah, we would have beaten the Chiefs. No doubt about it, hands down. No way we would have lost to the Chiefs if we had Tim Patrick with Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton. No doubt. Because Russell Wilson was being Russell Wilson. And of course, we would have annihilated the Chargers if we would have had Tim Patrick as well. Great point. Great point, Avatar. Sure like to know what you're talking about with Harbaugh and the NCAA. Haven't heard that at all. Okay. Speaking of Russell Wilson, coming off one, if not his worst season as quarterback, Russell Wilson has reached out to Sean Payton per Colin Cowherd. And here's what Cowherd said, and I quote, according to Russell Wilson, this is what it is, and I quote, Wilson contacted Payton legally, by the way, through channels. Does that mean that Russell Wilson reached out to somebody else to say, hey, can you get in contact with Sean Payton? I gotta talk to him. I gotta tell him, hey man, I gotta let him know how I feel. I don't know, but it says through contacts or through channels. Obviously, that means that he reached out some way, shape, or form. Is that because Russell Wilson realizes that maybe a Sean Payton head coach for the Denver Broncos would be exactly what he needs? Well, why wouldn't he say that? Why wouldn't he think that? If he's going to all of those avenues to reach out and get in contact somehow, some way with Sean Payton, that speaks volumes, guys. Absolutely speaks volumes. When you spend $249 or $245, whatever it is, $245 million on a contract extension for Russell Wilson, you don't think the owners and George Payton are not listening? Of course they're listening. They don't want their quarterback pissed off and having somebody else's head coach that Wilson doesn't really want. But then again, is Russell Wilson pulling the trigger here over Greg Penner's eyes, the CEO, or George Payton, the GM? No. Wilson's not pulling the eyes over Greg Penner. I guarantee that. But what he's doing is he's making it known of who he wants and who he feels he can work well with. I continue. He wants Payton, meaning, and I'm still in quote, he wants Payton, meaning Russell Wilson. Wilson said he needs fixing and he knows he needs fixing, end quote. What? Wilson said he needs fixing. Well, there's nothing wrong with Russell Wilson. I think what Russell Wilson is talking about when he says he needs fixing is he needs fixing from a head coach that will let him be Russell Wilson. That's the fixing I'm seeing, because Russell Wilson's fine. Again, if you watch the last two games, especially the game against the Chargers, I know he made mistakes. The Broncos fell behind in the first quarter, in the first half of that game. I understand that. But it's what you've done for me lately. And what he's done for us being Bronco fans, Broncos country and Bronco team and the ownership, is he's proven he's fine. It's what he needs around him as a head coach that will allow him to be himself. Let him do what he does best. Roll out of the pocket. Hey, man, when you're only 5'11", and you got linemen that are 6'4", and their arms reach way up here, which is another probably 3 feet, you're not going to throw around them pretty easily. And you're dang sure not going to be able to see your receivers too easily. So Wilson needs to roll out of the pocket. He needs to be able to see the receivers. He needs to be able to make things happen. He's not a pocket passer. Hackett didn't understand it. Hackett wanted Wilson to be an Aaron Rodgers. That ain't going to ever happen. And it didn't happen. But when Wilson's allowed to get out of the pocket and move and be himself, the result is what we saw against Kansas City in week 16 and the Chargers in week 17. That's the Russell Wilson the Broncos signed. That's the reason why we got him. That's the reason why we paid all that money. Well, I say we, I'm talking Broncos, because I bleed orange and blue. So it's we whenever I'm talking about the Broncos. Anyways. So apparently Russell Wilson feels that Sean Payton can be that kind of head coach to let him do what he does best. After all, Sean Payton allowed Drew Brees to do what he does best. And that was, throw the deep ball or move out of the pocket or stay in the pocket. Whatever it was that Drew Brees did best, Sean Payton allowed him to do it. Here's my concern, guys, and I've mentioned it many times before. Here's my concern. Sean Payton was involved, maybe not directly, but indirectly, because he's a head coach. He was involved in the bounty gate. That's against the NFL rules. You can get suspended, which he did. You can get fined, which he did. That is bad news. I don't want that coming to Denver. I don't want that dark shadow. We had that with Josh McDaniels when they had the Spygate. I don't want this in Denver. The other thing I don't want is, well, let's see. I'm under contract, but guess what? Yeah, things aren't going well. I think I'm going to leave. And he just walked away from the New Orleans Saints. How do you do that? I don't trust this guy. I really don't trust a Sean Payton. But then again, I'm kind of torn because if Russell Wilson feels that Sean Payton would be the perfect fit for him in the remaining years of his career with the Denver Broncos, and I hope he retires as a Bronco, maybe that's what he needs. And if he feels he needs a Sean Payton as a head coach, who am I to say I don't want him? I mean, I got my own feelings. I just spelled them out for you. I just don't know at this point. I don't want to happen in Denver what happened in New Orleans with the bounty gate and the walking out. I don't want that. But then again, if Sean Payton can make Russell Wilson be Russell Wilson for the next 5 years that we got him, and we win multiple Super Bowls, yeah, I'll be ecstatic. But right now, I have my reservations. But I'm going to say this, guys. If Russell Wilson wants Sean Payton, then this guy will bite his tongue and say, okay, I'll take Sean Payton as well. Not my first choice, but I will definitely go that route, because the bottom line is we need a coach that Russell Wilson can get along with. And it's a well-oiled machine. We didn't see that the first 16 games of the season, or 15 games of the season. We saw it the last 2. No word yet as to the Broncos are hire. Hasn't been announced at all. We'll find out. It very, very, very well could be Sean Payton wearing and donning the orange and blue. All right. Let me go here real quick. Avatar says Harbaugh was accused of lying to NCAA investigators and he is denying it. Whoa, mercy. But you know what, Avatar, I kind of wonder. Now that you brought that up, I kind of wonder if that's why the Broncos didn't go that direction. Did the Bronco brass, did Greg Penner, did George Payton know about this maybe? Was it leaked? Did he have any inkling? I don't know. But that is very, very interesting. I did not know that. I did not know that he's accused of lying to the NCAA investigators. Wow. See, another reason. I told you I didn't like Jim Harbaugh. I don't like his attitude. And now I don't like this. So great, great move by the Denver Broncos not to sign and hire Jim Harbaugh. Whew. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. D-Rock, hey, nice to see you, man. How you doing? Hey, Bill, that's what you're saying. So, hey, D-Rock, right back to you. Glad to have you in the house. D-Rock also says Peyton comes with a big price tag. We're doing one lemon purchase. We're doing, what's that? We're doing one lemon purchase. Can we afford another? Lemon meaning Hackett? Or what are we meaning here? Peyton comes with a big price tag. Well, they won our first round draft pick, which is coming from the San Francisco 49ers. And the 49ers being in the playoffs, that's going to drop that number one way down. So I'm not sure that that's a big price tag there. However, the big price tag could be salary. Not sure what he wants or what the ownership, Walton Penner ownership group wants to give. They got $70 billion worth. What's $20 million a year? What's $25 million a year? They just paid $245 or $248 million to Russell Wilson. What's another 25? Ain't no big deal. But I understand what you're saying. It is a huge price tag. And again, it goes back to what I said just a few minutes ago. The bounty gate and walk it out on the Saints when things didn't go right. I'm not sure I like that. I don't like that combination. But again, Russell Wilson reaching out through connections to say how badly he wants Sean Payton as a head coach. I don't know, guys. I don't know. I have mixed emotions. Very, very mixed emotions. All right. All right. Avatar says you got to get going. Avatar, thanks so much for being in the house. Always appreciate it. You're always one of the mainstays, and have a great evening and have a great rest of your weekend as well. We'll talk to you. All right. All right. D-Rock says, sorry, we paid one king ransom for Russ and now acquire Peyton will cost more draft picks and possibly players. Good point. Good point. I totally agree. But then again, D-Rock, you got to understand. All right. You have to understand this. If a Sean Payton can come in and let Wilson be Wilson and do what he did against the Chiefs and against the Chargers, and we get wins and results and playoffs and a strong push and drive to the Super Bowl, is it worth it? Is it worth that cost to you? I'm gonna direct it straight to you. Is it worth that cost to you? Is it worth draft picks? Is it worth possibly players? Obviously not key players. We're not going to get rid of Surtain or Simmons, or we're not going to get rid of, Cortland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy. So is it worth it to you? Now, making it personalized to me, yes, it's worth it to me. If, and that's a huge if, that's if we end up with wins and we end up with playoff berths and we end up with a strong drive to the Super Bowl. Otherwise, I totally agree with you. It's a bust. It's a joke. It's a misfire again. But this time, it's not just it's not just George Payton that's calling the shots. It's Greg Penner who's overseeing George Payton in these deals and this hiring of the head coach. So the bottom line is, if they make a mistake and sign a Sean Payton, excuse me, guys, I'm getting really ahead of myself. If they go ahead and sign a Sean Payton, and Sean Payton turns out to be a bust, and the Broncos are no better than they were under Hackett, which I cannot even foresee that. I'm just saying if. Then it falls more on Greg Penner because he's overseeing George Payton. So, in my opinion, in a way, it's a win-win. If we get Sean Payton and we win games and we go in the playoffs and we go deep in the playoffs and make a Super Bowl run, then yeah, it was a great move. If we end up losing more games than winning and Sean Payton's not the answer and Russell Wilson doesn't get better, or not better, but doesn't return to what he did in the last couple games, then yeah, that falls on Greg Penner, and he's got to be held accountable because he's a CEO and he's overseeing George Payton. So I don't know. It'll be interesting, but I do agree with you. It may cost us players and it may cost us draft picks, but the bottom line is it's a gamble, guys. It's a gamble. Just like when you draft a quarterback, you draft the top-notch player out of the draft and they don't amount to anything. It's a gamble. I mean, plain and simple. But yeah, I do agree. It could be a high price, but the dividends could pay out mega, big time. And that's what this guy is hoping for. Like I said, I got mixed emotions. We'll just see where it goes, guys. All right. D-Rock also says, personally, I don't care for draft picks, but losing the capital and still floating on life preserver. Yep, you're right. I agree. But again, if things all work out and Sean Payton, should he be hired? And I'm not saying he has yet because I don't know, but should he be hired? And if he is the right fit for a Russell Wilson for the next 5 years, wouldn't it be worth it, guys? Wouldn't it be worth it if the Broncos are back in the playoffs? I mean, I know it'd be worth it to me. Absolutely it'd be worth it. It'd be worth it in 3 out of the 5 years. Not 2 out of the 5. I'd take 3 out of 5. I mean, if you're going to pay that king's ransom to a quarterback and then also to, a head coach, why not? Why not? I don't know. Here I go again. Well, I was going to say, why not take that chance? But then again, I don't know. I don't know. Thank goodness. Thank goodness I'm not the one making the decision, because I probably would make the wrong one. Well, in fact, I know I'd make the wrong one, most likely. All right. Let's see. One more comment from D-Rock says, we have an idea of Peyton's DC, but who's his potential OC? I don't know. Good question. I'd like to see Brian Schottenheimer. I just don't think Schottenheimer is going to work with Peyton. I really don't. Schottenheimer is more along the lines of a Dan Quinn. I don't know who the offensive coordinator would be. I really don't. It's interesting to ponder those, but first things first, we got to find out who the head coach is. And then, hopefully Greg Penner will be involved in some of those assistant coaches, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, special teams, all of that. Hopefully Greg Penner will be involved in that, because we cannot afford to make mistakes again, guys. We cannot afford to make those mistakes we made with the last head coach. All right, moving on. Going to go to Tom Brady. This is interesting. After the Buccaneers lost to the Cowboys last Monday night, speculation around Tom Brady has begun. There are 3 teams expected to be in the Brady sweepstakes this offseason coming up. Those teams are the Vegas Raiders, San Francisco 49ers, and the Miami Dolphins. Well, 2 of them make sense to me. I'm not sure about the Dolphins. However, Tom Brady hasn't said whether he will play in the upcoming 2023 season. Okay, let's go back to it. Raiders, 49ers, and Dolphins. Well, let me start out with the Dolphins first. The Dolphins, first and foremost, because they're an up-and-coming team. They play in Miami, Florida, which has no state tax. Tom Brady already has a house in Florida, or he did, unless he had to sell that because of getting a divorce. I don't know. But in any case, I know he's got a house or 2 or 3 or whatever, one of them in Florida. So it makes sense if he were to seek the Miami Dolphins quarterback spot. That'd be understood, because we don't know what we don't know what's gonna happen to Tua. He's had multiple concussions, and that is beyond serious at this point, guys. When you have those many concussions and to that extreme, I dare say another one could possibly cost him his life. I would hope not, but you hear about it all the time with the CTE, and you hear about people that just, they have multiple concussions and they get disoriented and they just have no idea what they're doing. I don't want to see that with anybody. I don't want to see that with Tua. So Tom Brady going to the Dolphins, sure, I can totally see that. I can also see why he would want to go to the Raiders. Now, the Raiders are not an up-and-coming team. They struggled this year, just like the Broncos did as well. But the connection between a Josh McDaniels, who was the offensive coordinator in in New England when Brady was there, that would be a connection that Brady may be interested in. It's also on the West Coast. Well, so to speak. I mean, Nevada's not the West Coast, but, in the Western time zone, it's warmer weather, just like Miami. And, it's Vegas. I mean, Tom Brady's a party kind of guy. We've seen that before when he's won Super Bowls. So Vegas may fit him along with Josh McDaniels. 49ers is interesting because you're talking about Kyle Shanahan, but the 49ers are a solid team. He could win with the 49ers. But then what do you do with Purdy? Purdy all of a sudden came out of the woodwork this year. The irrelevant pick that the 49ers seemed like they landed a gem. So you bring in a Tom Brady, and Purdy can learn underneath Brady. I mean, why not? One of the greatest, and a lot of people say he is the greatest. Well, yeah, in terms of Super Bowl wins and such and whatnot, but still, he's played since he's 95. So of course you're going to break all these records. But if you put a Brady on the 49ers team with Kyle Shanahan, the head coach, and you have Purdy learning underneath Tom Brady, wouldn't you want that? Sure. Nobody knows where Brady's going to go. Brady probably doesn't even know where he's going to go because he said he hasn't made a decision whether he's going to play next year. But those 3 teams are very interesting. Miami, because he has a home in Florida, as well as no tax. Vegas in Nevada, again, no state tax. And he's got Josh McDaniels as the head coach. And then the 49ers, because the 49ers are on the verge of going to the NFC Championship if they beat the Dallas Cowboys this coming Sunday. So there you go. Tom Brady may be the first quarterback. He could be. I'm not going to say maybe. Tom Brady could be the first quarterback in NFL history to win a Super Bowl with 3 different teams. Patriots, numerous times, of course. Tampa Bay, and if he goes to the Dolphins, 49ers, or Raiders, probably not the Raiders. 49ers, most likely, he could be the only quarterback in NFL history to win 3 Super Bowls, or win Super Bowls with 3 different teams. All right. I wrap up this show tonight, guys, with key unrestricted free agents that the Broncos have to face. Before I get to that, let me go. D-Rock says again, personally, I'm taking baby steps. I'm shooting for beating KC first. Okay, I agree. But you have to have a head coach that will allow the offense to do what they need to do to beat Kansas City. Reason why I said playoffs is because they can go as a wild card. They can go as a wild card. Sure, I want to beat Kansas City and be the top dog in the AFC West again, like we had under Peyton Manning when we won 4 straight AFC divisions. Of course I want. AFC West division. Of course I want that. And you're right. Baby steps. First things first. But if Kansas City were to win the division and the Broncos end up as a wild card, I'm okay with that because we wouldn't see Kansas City or face them until the championship round, which I'm okay. Because if we got that far, Next year, we get that far? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll welcome that all day long. Absolutely. One more comment from D-Rock. Brady says, Brady is definitely not going to San Francisco because San Francisco has too many good quarterbacks already. Okay. I understand what you're saying. But D-Rock, do you think that the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan would pass on a Tom Brady-led team? And yes, if they do have good quarterbacks already, then if Tom Brady struggles, you put in Purdy or you put in Garoppolo. Why not? Why not? It's a lifesaver. It's a life preserver. You bring Tom Brady in with his experience that can mentor, whether he wants to do it directly or indirectly, he can mentor Purdy. Then where's Purdy going to be once he gets that top-notch starting job all the time? He's going to be much better. Now, Purdy's looking great so far. But if you can have the toolage of a Tom Brady and just watch him, how he goes through his progressions and how he goes through his game management or how he goes through preparation before the game. You don't think that would be money in the bank for Purdy? Oh, heck yeah, it would be. Absolutely it would be. And you know, I'm not saying that Brock Osweiler learned a lot under Peyton Manning in that 2015 run to the Super Bowl 50, but it sure didn't hurt because Brock Osweiler did great things when Brady wasn't in there. And we won the key games we had to win, including a game against Tom Brady and the New England Patriots to get home field advantage. That's why. Do you think that Purdy would benefit? Absolutely he would. And so would Garoppolo. Just saying. I mean, you may be correct. You may be correct that he may not end up going to San Francisco. He may not end up going to the Raiders or the Dolphins. But I'm just saying, what if? What if? And I'm not a 49er fan. Absolutely not. I love Kyle Shanahan. I wish he would have came to Denver years ago. Well, that's a whole nother story or a whole nother show I could bring in for the entire show. But I do understand what you're saying, D-Rock. I totally understand what you're saying. Yeah, you probably may not, but it's just an interesting story to dive into. Okay, wrapping this up. Broncos key unrestricted free agents. And here they are. Mike Boone, running back. Offensive tackle, Cameron Fleming. Safety, Kareem Jackson. Defensive end, Draymond Jones. Running back, Marlon Mack. Offensive guard, Dalton Reisner. Tight end, Eric Saubert. Inside linebacker, Alex Singleton. And right tackle, Billy Turner. Holy smokes. Guys, can we afford whatsoever to get rid of any of these guys? And I know that the salary cap is there and you have to stay within that salary cap. But losing guys like a running back like Mike Boone, I mean, he may not be the next up-and-coming Javonte Williams. Nobody is on the Broncos right now, except maybe Murray, but Latavius Murray. But we need somebody like a Mike Boone, a Cameron Fleming, offensive tackle. We got to have offensive tackles, guys. We have to have offensive guard. Dalton Reisner does not want to leave Denver. But does that mean for one moment that he's going to stay? He's an unrestricted free agent. All these guys I mentioned are unrestricted, meaning they can go out and seek whatever money and whatever team they want. Denver has a right to match it. But what if it's outside of Denver's range to match it? Then we could lose a Dalton Reisner or a Billy Turner or an Alex Singleton. Alex Singleton came out of nowhere this year, guys. He was absolutely lights out in linebacker. Just solid with Josie Jewell. I mean, Singleton had a career year in just a very short time. I don't want to lose this guy. But are we able to keep all of them? Draymond Jones, our defensive end, are we going to be able to keep him? How about Kareem Jackson? I know some people are not high on Kareem Jackson, but I've told this and said this many, many times, guys, and I'm going to keep saying it. Any Bronco player that wears orange and blue, I do not want them to leave, period, unless they retire. And then of course, I want them to retire as a Denver Bronco. I don't want to see any of these guys leave. But I know that we can't sign everybody, and that bothers me because there's key players. In fact, these are all the key players I mentioned that I feel the Denver Broncos need to retain. Absolutely need to retain these guys. Is it going to happen? Most likely not. I don't know who's going to come back. I don't know who's not going to come back. But I do know when you have a guy like a Dalton Reisner who's pouring his heart out and energy for this Bronco team, he may not be back. Singleton may not be back. Billy Turner, Eric Saubert, Marlon Mack, Draymond Jones, Kareem Jackson, Mike Boone, and Cameron Fleming. I don't know, guys. We'll find out in the weeks and months to come. But I don't want any of those guys gone. Absolutely none of them gone. And I understand it's a business. And I understand it's rough to say goodbye to somebody who's been on the Broncos, whether a short time or a long time. It's tough. I don't like it one bit. But business is business, and you've got to do things to make your team better. All right. Oh, hey, Kamani, what's going on, my friend? Glad to see you in the house. Let Billy Turner loose? How come? You don't trust him on the offensive line? What's your reasoning behind wanting Billy Turner to go? Let me see. Right tackle. You don't trust him to be a right tackle? Or you don't think he's good enough? Or there's somebody else you want in that spot, which is fine. I can totally understand your thought process. Absolutely. But my thing is offensive line, we need a lot of help. If we let people go, even though they haven't been all that good, is it due to their lack of skill? Is it due to the fact that they're not coached well enough? Remember, we let our offensive line coach go. So is it because of the offensive line coach? And if we get a new head coach, let's say in Sean Payton or Dan Quinn or whomever, are they going to bring in somebody that can make this offensive line better? Maybe that's just what we need. I'm not sure it's all on Billy Turner, but I do understand what you're saying because now you just made mention of that Billy Turner has too many injuries. I do agree with that. Is that the conditioning that the Broncos were going through under Hackett? Again, I mean, all of these things come into play. I'm not saying you're wrong, Kamani, not at all. I mean, I love your take. I love your opinions. I just don't know if it's all on Billy Turner, if it's his coaching, if it's the conditioning that they're going through, or maybe it is just Billy Turner. Maybe his body just can't take the everyday grind or every week grind of the NFL. I don't know. Maybe that is the point. I do agree with you. Oh, hang on. That was not it. I'm sorry. I do agree with you, D-Rock. Bring back Murray and Singleton. Absolutely. Latavius Murray has got to come back. Absolutely has got to come back. No doubt about it. And Singleton, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, absolutely had a career in just a very short time. Career season, just short time. He was absolutely lights out. Because, and speaking of Latavius Murray, we don't know what we're going to get in the comeback from Javonte Williams. We don't know. With a torn ACL and an MCL, we don't know what he is going to be able to do. Now, sure, medical science has gotten a lot better than when Terrell Davis tore his ACL. But just, comparing apples to oranges, and I know you can't really do that, but I'm going to try and do my best anyways. When Terrell Davis tore his ACL, he was never the same. Never the same. But of course, that was back in the 90s and early 2000. Things have changed in 23 years plus. So could a Javonte Williams come back just as strong, if not stronger? Sure. But it hasn't been done by any running back that has torn an ACL and MCL at the same time. I'm not saying it's impossible. I just have my concerns about whether or not he's going to come back 100% the way he was, or even close to a former runner that he was, unfortunately, just for one season with the Broncos. That's what bothers me. I like D-Rock. I like that take. Acquire Tony Pollard from Dallas. Okay. I'm not sure if Tony Pollard is a free agent, unrestricted free agent, or restricted free agent, or if it would, and you said acquire, so I'm assuming or thinking that you're saying that he's trade bait, or we could use him or get him in a trade, or are you saying that he's available and we can just acquire him? I'm not sure what that means, because I don't know if he's restricted or unrestricted. I would love to get a Pollard. I think it'd be great with Pollard and Murray and hopefully Williams. And I think that would be a great running back room. I just don't know what we would have to give up to get a Pollard, or how much he's asking for, or if he is even a restricted free agent. But that's a good idea. That's a really good take. D-Rock says, if we bring back K-Jack, he has to be a backup. Oh, I agree. Absolutely. He's going to be a backup. But here's the thing. We need solid backups. We need players on this team that know this team, that have chemistry with this team. Now, I'm not talking about head coaches, because we've gone through them like a turnstile. So I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about players. Kareem Jackson knows the Broncos players. He knows how to play in this defense. If we don't bring him back and we have somebody else in there that maybe new, then what? They got to learn the system. Maybe they won't gel completely. Maybe there'll be issues. No, I agree with you, D-Rock. I totally agree with you. We need to bring back Kareem Jackson. Yes, even as a backup, because you cannot have, in my opinion, too many good quality backups. And that's across the board. I mean, that's totally across the board. Offense, defense, and special teams. You have to have good quality backups, because if you don't, well, then you're not going to go anywhere, because you're not. I mean, look what the Broncos had to deal with this past season with backups who weren't quality backups. It was pathetic. I mean, it was absolutely horrible to watch at times. I still did, because that's my team, but it was hard at times to watch, because you're just like, how can these guys make mistakes? But they're backups, and that's what's going to happen. Absolutely what's going to happen. All right. One last comment, and that is D-Rock says Pollard, Williams, Murray, and Mack. Oh, yeah, that would be great. I totally agree. You talk about a running back room that would be absolutely electric. Absolutely. Because you have 4 different styles. You have 4 different ways to come at the defense, and they have no idea how to defend it, in my opinion. Absolutely. That would be absolutely icing on the cake when it comes to running back class. Williams mentioned in there, that's the only if factor. And of course, Pollard, because we don't have him. But Williams is the if factor, because we just don't know how he's going to be when he does come back. Hopefully, 100%. I'll even take 90%. If he can be 90% of what he was in 2021, oh my goodness, that would be absolutely perfect. And then if we can get a Pollard, yeah, absolutely. The cherry on top of the icing on top of the cake. Bingo. Thanks, guys. Thanks, D-Rock, and you're chiming in. Really appreciate it. That's it, guys. That's all I have. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Before I get out of here, I definitely want to say, thanks, guys, for being in the chat. Like always, Avatar, Bubba Gonzalez, D-Rock, Kamani. Always great to have you guys in the chat. You always bring good energy, good comments, and I just love the conversation back and forth. You guys make this show so much better by being in the chat. I absolutely say that from the bottom of my heart. Thank you guys so much for your support and for always being in here and making the show exactly what it should be, engaging with the people that watch. Absolutely love it. Guys, don't forget, before I get out of here, don't forget that the other shows tomorrow is the Avalanche Neighborhood. Madungus Creevy and myself will be doing that. That's the Avalanche game tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Pacific time. And then on Sunday, it's going to be the playoff neighborhood. And we're going to be doing the Buffalo Bills and Cincinnati Bengals. That's also Madungus Creevy and myself. That is a playoff neighborhood. That game goes live at 12 noon Pacific time, the playoff neighborhood. Then on Monday, we have the Cluster Puck podcast. That goes live every Monday, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then on Tuesday, we have 2 shows. Debuting will be the second show. First show is the 5280 podcast. That is hosted by Mundungus Creevy and his good friend Glenn Hauser. That goes live every 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then immediately following that is going to be the what's their name? I forgot. It's whiskey and Bronco Talk or something like that. I forgot. I'm sorry, guys. It's the whiskey. Check it out. It's right after the 5280 podcast on Tuesday. That debuts right after the show on Tuesday. Then on Wednesday, you have the Wild Wild West, and that features a fan from every AFC West team: Broncos, Raiders, Chargers, and Chiefs. That goes live every Wednesday, 4:30, 5:30, 6:30, and 7:30. And then on Friday, this show, once again, Broncos Breakdown, live every Friday, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Thanks again, guys, for watching. Always appreciate it. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your evening and a great football weekend this coming weekend. We will talk to you this weekend on both neighborhoods, Avalanche neighborhood and playoff neighborhood. Until then, guys, we will talk to you on Saturday. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.